Hello and welcome into another episode of Event Perspectives. I'm really excited to be joined today by Jessica Murphy, Senior Event Marketing Manager at SAP. We're going to talk all about how SAP uses hybrid and virtual events in their event strategy. But before we jump into kind of some nerdy stuff on that topic, Jessica, how are you feeling? You ready for the conversation today?
Yes, I am feeling great. Thank you so much for having me, Rodney. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Can't wait. And before we get started, I like to start with something to just get the conversation rolling, something that's fun and easy. And today, I think I'm feeling maybe a question about hacks. Why don't you talk to us about your favorite work or event hack?
Yeah, definitely. So I am all about hacks. I love to find the best ways to do something to deliver the best event or the best experience for our customers. One of my favorite places to be a little hacky in is definitely Rate Focus. The latest hack, at least to our team, this may be something many teams already do, but is having something called a directional workflow. That really allows us to make sure that we have one consistent link throughout our event experience, but we're able to update where that is directing to so that throughout the life cycle of the event, we can either drive to the agenda or the session catalog or the post event page, really depending on where we are. So, having that directional workflow has been probably my favorite hack to date and one that I know we've implemented across so many events.
I love it. I mean, selfishly too, I love that it's a rain focus answer. It didn't have to be. So thank you for that. I'm curious. Are you using like attendee attributes to decide where they're going? Or are you using like event specific, like based on time of the event and things like that? I'm curious to know which one you're using.
Great question. And always happy to get a little nerdy and tactical here. So, what we do for the directional workflow specifically is we pre plan that out. So, it is based on a time, but instead of using any sort of attribute criteria, what we're doing is basically having a workflow redirect in there. So, it'll be a workflow in and of itself so that we have the same link, the same URI, etc. And then that redirect goes to a page that is either live or we've already built, but we're able to work on that in the back end. So it's more timing based and something we do update manually, but it is a super easy update. And having that link be consistent, I think, is a really great customer perspective. It specifically allows us when we are sending, for example, for a virtual event, a calendar holdout to say join here. That is the directional link. And even though we're not ready when we originally launch registration, on that live day, they have that is clickable and it's that same link because we've updated the directional workflow.
I can't express how excited I am because we are already diving into tactical nerdy, and that's a good thing. These conversations can take a lot of different shapes, but I think we're on the right page as far as I'm concerned, because I could talk about that for 60 minutes. I don't know if anybody who's listening to this wants to do that, but very cool, very important, and I think you just hit on a few different things, and I do love that about Rain Focus, the configurability of understanding what that use case is and knowing that, hey, what it is today isn't what it's going to need to be in 30 days. And that's not for lack of preparation. It's just for lack of, the time and the flow. But, this is the day that we need to get them the calendar invite, for example. All right. So great. We're off to a hot start here. I'm excited about that. Just what we like to focus on this show is really the stories, the you and who you are and kind of what led you to events. I feel like the path into events isn't always the most straightforward. In most of the conversations I've had, my own as well. I'm curious, what got you into the world of events? Was it something that you always knew this is what I want to do and pursued it, or did you kind of follow into it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually started out in public relations, which was the great thing. I really enjoyed all the experience I got there. But then I realized really quickly I am very detail oriented. And after a media event, I was like, oh, this is what I like. I like to see the end to end execution. I like to understand all those little things that I thought about months ago, how that's going to come to life and what that's going to look like. So the first media event I did, I realized I wanted to solely focus on events. So I pivoted pretty quickly, and then ended up going to wedding planning briefly, and then really diving into corporate events, starting out kind of on a smaller scale and now doing larger scale corporate events. So the trajectory was a little unique, but I think because knowing who I am, knowing I really like the details and seeing that end-to-end experience, it was something that felt very natural when I started and continues to feel natural day to day.
And I think that's come up a few times. I mean, getting to see your work end to end or to know what you're working on today, solving that problem is going to matter in a month from now. It's the problems you don't solve today are your problems tomorrow, kind of thing. I think that's really cool to hear. And I'm curious. You mentioned like weddings, and obviously you're in corporate events now. There's, to me, something that probably is similar and different about different types of events. I'm curious, what's the most similar, what's the most different weddings to corporate events?
Um, So here's what I'll say. I love my team, and weddings are a super happy space. And my team is another really happy space for me. So I think the joy and happiness, and this is sounding much cornier than I anticipated, to be honest, but the joy and happiness that
No,
I
hey,
get
it's good.
from,
Sentimental's good.
okay, great. I appreciate the validation. So the joy that we get for being together, I mean, we're not getting married. That's not a wedding, but it is fantastic. And I think I love just kind of all that high energy that you get from a wedding, that you get from an event, and then it's over, and it is just such a high, and it's really, really rewarding. So I think the joy, I guess, would be the most similar. By no means is anyone in a wedding
Yeah.
dress in our
Okay.
corporate events, but if someone shows up, I'd support it.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's possible, right? I don't know how often those events are in Vegas. I mean, I've done some events in Vegas where the wrong people have showed up at the wrong place, and it's like, I don't think you have. I think you're in the wrong. I think that hallway is you, and not this one. But no, that's a great. I love the joy aspect of it. I think I find similar, like the end, that working towards kind of the light at the end of the tunnel and seeing all of that work to come together, even though you're never quite sure how it's going to materialize together. You kind of have that confidence. You put all the pieces there, and ultimately the end is always does feel like a big celebration of just a culmination of a ton of work. I love that. Within, you kind of identified like right away, oh, this is for me. You were at a PR agency, and you happen to get events. One, how did they task you with an event? Did you raise your hand for it? And like, was there a single thing about it that you said, this is me, or is it just some combination of all of those features you've already talked about?
Yeah, so I there was a single thing. So event surveys, as we all know, super important. We have to collect our
Mhm.
attendee feedback. And after this specific event that I did at the PR agency, we similarly had a survey. And someone brought up something incredibly specific. They were like, I don't even remember what it was. I think it had something to do with food and beverage. That's obviously an important aspect. But they said, I really loved this cocktail. It felt really unique. And I'm like, that was my idea. And it felt really
Mm.
good to know and see and get that recognition from that individual. And while that's like such a little thing in the grand scheme of planning, at the same time, knowing that those details are noticed made all of the detail oriented work that I do day to day with my team really, really worth it. And then I very much was like, okay, that was really, really great. And I want to do only that for the rest of my life. That's a bold statement, but at least for the long term.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic, and I know that feeling well. For the rest of my life. Well, sometimes, there are moments, but I think that feedback and those small wins, they're not insignificant. I think when you're impacting someone's experience or they're walking away with something, it does really pay off. It makes a difference that you decided to do this instead of that, or that that idea worked, or maybe that idea needed tweaking. I feel like all of them, present this almost really interesting, human experience that you get to help facilitate and then also learn from. So you've been at SAP now for 7 years. Talk to us a little bit about how you ended up at SAP.
Yeah, definitely. So I started as a contractor, really supporting one of our team members at a very niche kind of group at SAP, and then transitioned to the Concur team. And now I'm on the broader global events team. And I've been here for about 7 years, like you said. And I think the thing that attracted me to SAP was really kind of the technology component, being always kind of the latest and greatest in the industry and being able to interweave that and really showcase something tangible when there was a new product or something like that. I think people get really excited about it. And it definitely also speaks to my nerdy side a little bit. I love some really, really high executed product. It's really great.
Yeah. And in your role, talk to us a little bit about like what your focus has been. Has it been similar throughout that time, or has it evolved since you've been at SAP?
It's definitely evolved. At one point, I was doing sponsorship management, at another point, content management. And now I really focus in our virtual strategy and specifically how we can make our virtual and in person events feel like a hybrid experience for all of our attendees. So I look at how we can make sure that the in person event doesn't just end when that celebration night is over. How can we extend the life cycle of the content online? And then also, how can we reach a broader audience during the actual in person event in an online platform? So, specifically, we use Brain Focus for that, of course. And I think it's been really fantastic to see the wider reach that we get from an online event.
And in like within that, I feel like hybrid is always such an interesting word because I feel like I've said it, and sometimes in the industry you have people react to like, well, what does it mean? This is what it means for me. Um, what's the SAP focus on hybrid? Is it delivering the same event to a virtual attendee as the in-person attendee? Is it working them into the in-person event, or effectively delivering kind of multiple experiences, one for an audience that's in person, one for an audience that's virtual? I'm curious to get SAP's take on the term hybrid.
That's a great question. So, we really view hybrid as one event with two experiences. We're going to reach the audience that wherever they are, whether that's in person, they're able to join us where we're located, or that's virtually. And so, that one event with two experiences framework means that branding is consistent across that. Content is the same. We're using in person content and really pulling in the best of the best to the virtual experience. Now, a lot of the time, knowing that our virtual viewership metrics indicate that viewership is lower, people aren't sitting online for a full day, we do only select the best of the best there. We're not doing every single session, but the highlights, and they're getting those core moments that we want them to receive when they're watching online. But it is a consistent feel, it's a consistent presentation, and we're able to really call it a hybrid event because of that consistency.
Yeah, got it. And are you finding, so are you delivering it simultaneously, or is it the kind of virtual experience follows? Okay, so you are delivering like a broadcast simultaneous alongside of on-demand access, is that right?
It depends on the event and the timing, but for the most part, it is either during the same time as the in person event or the day after. It's very close together to make it feel like we are promoting one event.
Okay. Um, and now I've got another question. I'm curious. I'm a data person. So how do you find like the consumption of that content? Is it available to me who's there in person and I'm also, watching it, or do you find that it's primarily consumed by those that only were attending virtual and those that were attending in person aren't going back to the content that they missed, or is it some mix of the two?
It's definitely a mix, and it depends on the event and the audience that we're targeting for that event. But what we see a lot of the time is that our in person audience is going online after. What we do to try and make them kind of view that content is when we are sharing the session presentations, which everyone really loves to see, we're putting it in a platform that they can also watch the content in. And we frame it as if you missed this session, you can tune in here. And so from that, we see probably about a 30% conversion rate from in person attendees to watching online virtually. It depends again on the event and the content, but for the most part, we
Hmm.
do see that engagement. And I think having it be easily accessible and also promoted as one experience makes it really seamless for that user who attended in person to then go online.
And for this conversation, we typically target like what's the most interesting challenge, and what you've identified is, so you've kind of talked to us about a lot of what you're working on from a day-to-day perspective. You're also now focusing on bringing, it sounds like, multiple events together into one experience. Can you tell us a little bit about, what are those events? Did they used to be, all different in-person events and now it's one? Like tell us a little bit about what's going on with that particular challenge.
Yeah, happy to. So we're bringing together and really trying to consolidate the events portfolio. And so it depends on what event we are talking about when we look at the historical, but some were in person, some were virtual only, some were hybrid. So our challenge is making sure that all of our customer attendees understand and know kind of where to go to get what they want, to make sure they have the best practices, the education, etc., that we would share normally and have historically shared either in person or online. So, what we are doing to try to really seamlessly bring together all of the lines of business that we are talking about and have hosted separate events in the past is offering an event that is in person and online and doing a lot of education, a lot of communication to our customer base to make sure they know what to expect and where to get really what they want.
And, is it like or do they maintain their own brands, or have you, like, merged them into kind of one broader SAP, kind of event?
It's a great question. I am by no means a branding expert, so I cannot take credit for it. But what I can say is that the branding is beautiful. So there's a lot of cohesion across the SAP Connect event, specifically at a high level. And then there are sub tracks or focus areas that have unique branding per that focus area. And it's really, really beautiful. Again, I'm by no means a branding expert, but they've done an incredible job making sure it all ties together.
Listen, you can take credit on this, I'll give you the credit for it. No,
Please
and
don't. Please don't. They're incredible, talented people. I'm just here for the colors, and I think it's stunning.
I know I sometimes take credit briefly before I like look over my shoulder and see our design team or who do incredible work and be like, I mean, I'll just it's not me. I wish it was, but it wasn't. The something else that I'm curious about is just the measurement, and I feel like to get support for a lot of what you're delivering virtual because there are obviously costs and things associated with delivering the event both in person and virtual. Um, what is it from a ROI perspective that SAP is finding? Because I think, in conversations that I've had, and, arguably some of these are with people that are probably more, in-person events oriented and are less inclined to, see the value. Um, I'm curious, what is it that SAP is looking at from a measurement perspective? What are the outcomes the same? Are they different that you're looking for from a virtual attendee than you would be someone who, physically showed up to attend the event in person?
Yeah, so I think there are a lot of ROI components when we look at a virtual event. So, one of the things that we see virtually is we're able to reach a broader audience. So, we often have a global audience attending online, and that is due to a variety of factors, whether someone can't travel or someone is unable to make it. We see them coming online. And so, because of that specifically, we also see the virtual pipeline really increase. And that's really, really impactful from a business standpoint because we're able to say, okay, these people are all attending. They weren't able to make it in person, but we're still able to reach them and connect with them. And I think virtual overall just provides that connection piece and making sure, again, everyone gets kind of exactly what they're looking for, whether that's from a networking perspective or an education perspective. And they're able to chat with other attendees or chat with experts, answer those questions in the Q&A, and also see that keynote that they've always wanted to see and really get that
Mhm.
exposure.
Do you find like from a sales follow-up process or kind of sales conversion process, is there a way that you're differentiating, maybe highly engaged versus less engaged? And hey, it was, or actually, I should have probably asked, is it free? I assume that it was free, and maybe I shouldn't
Yes.
have. Is the experience okay? So it's a free virtual experience. Is there a differentiation in terms of how you're categorizing the level of engagement? And hey, this was maybe someone that tuned in briefly versus this was someone who really consumed a ton of content about this product line. They engage with the keynote. Like, are there ways that you're separating out that audience that maybe align them more to like immediate follow up versus call it
Yeah.
nurture track?
Definitely. So we look at their interaction. So a nurture track example would be someone who was just tuning in, watching different sessions, but that immediate follow up. So we use brain focus surveys specifically and Pigeonhole as well to ask if they're interested in being contacted about a specific product. If that is yes, and if we have that product as a drop down or multiple choice, then that requires immediate follow up. And so then it's called a hand raiser task on our end, but basically that is then created so that the account manager can follow up with that individual. And we're looking at different ways to make sure that hand raiser task is incorporated and really, really clear so the attendees know exactly what they are getting when they mark that they're interested in something.
And over the course, this is another question that I've got, just knowing kind of the my life cycle with virtual events kind of started with the pandemic and then, to now. I'm curious from your experience, what has changed, if anything? What has changed in terms of the approach that you're using in your virtual and or hybrid events that you weren't doing during the pandemic or even pre-pandemic?
Definitely. So I really started in the virtual space as a result of the pandemic. And I think at that time we were really scrappy. We knew that we needed a solution, but we didn't have a ton of time to develop that. And since then, we've evolved and really actually put a strategy behind what we are doing and how we are showcasing things online, how people are consuming content to make sure they have a really great journey. Whereas when we first started, it was kind of like, here's like 50 sessions, enjoy, like, good luck.
Yeah.
Now we're very focused on building out an agenda so that the customer, when they join, can start their day with the keynote and then go into a breakout session and follow really a track approach so that they're not overwhelmed with deciding what to watch. And so I think the strategy has really developed over time versus that original scrappiness.
Yeah, oh boy, do I remember. Do I remember throwing a whole lot of things at the wall or being part of the team that was throwing a whole lot of things at the wall. And I think you hit on something, and I heard this term. I don't know if you've heard this term before, decision calories. And that there's only so many, you only have so many decision calories. And I know in my own personal life, I feel this way. Like I do want choice to an extent, but also I kind of want you to know who I am and just guide me there. So you've hit on track. Is there anything in that vein that you're doing from a personalization standpoint, or helping people guide them through this cohesive hybrid experience?
Yeah, so our developer team is honestly, they're incredible. So they are making it so that based on an attribute selected in Ring Focus through the registration process, that individual is going to a catalog that is pre-filtered based on that selected attribute. So I think that makes their journey a lot more clean, clear. They see only what they should see. If they want to kind of diverge and access something else, they can. But from the initial point when they join, it's a very tailored approach.
Fascinating. So you're taking the approach of saying, "Hey, we know who you are, and when you go to the catalog, we're narrowing this down. We're eliminating decisions from you. Not that you can't uneliminate though. Not that you can't broaden your world if you want to, but we're narrowing it on purpose because we're human beings living in 2025, and there's so many things happening so quickly that this is to help you out on that path. That's really interesting.
Exactly. Exactly, and I think it
Um,
really provides a tailored experience for those attendees, and to your point, really cuts down on that decision fatigue.
and I'm gonna end with this question before. Don't worry, we've got a few more fun sections to get to. I'm gonna end with this question. Um, what is your favorite thing that you're doing right now with your kind of hybrid virtual events? And what is like the one thing that if we were having this conversation in 52 weeks from now, that you would say, this is something I hope we're doing more of in 52 weeks?
Okay, I think my favorite thing right now is I feel like I'm gonna sound like the cheesiest person again, but often for virtual, sometimes we operate kind of alone. We're in a sad production studio, not sad, but
Basement.
uh, yeah, yeah. I have a partner in crime this time around, and she has been absolutely fantastic to work with. So I think what I've really enjoyed day to day recently is having someone to collaborate with, to bounce ideas off of, and someone who is an expert in her own right. She comes from a media background, actually worked in TV, has a lot of fantastic expertise. So having a different perspective has been really valuable. I think my perspective of virtual has gotten stale over time. I am in that kind of sad basement. This is
Yeah.
our recording studio. This
Yeah.
is our backdrop. And she's come with a lot of great ideas. So, as cheesy as it is, having a partner in crime has probably been my favorite day to day aspect recently. A year from now, oh gosh, I don't know. Maybe
I know.
I We'll see. I think a year from now, there will be a lot of learnings that we have. So this is the first time that we are executing that event that we mentioned, where we're bringing together multiple historical separate events. And I think we'll have a ton of learnings, and we'll be in the planning stages for that. And it'll be really great, I think, to look at those learnings and then plan how we're going to improve and continue improving year over year.
And I think that's a great answer. It's one of the things that I think, for me at least, has kind of kept me in this industry, the ability to execute but learn. And, even if it's a slight iteration or slight tweak, or we never know what, might get thrown our way, the opportunity to continue to evolve that experience, but bringing people together both virtually and in person. So, and it transitions nicely just to the question that I ask all of our guests. The event industry is notably not for the faint of heart. It makes jobs most stressful jobs list. Yet here we are. So I'm curious. What is your favorite piece of advice? It could be advice that you've heard or that you've kind of learned and like to give now that you would have to someone that is aspiring to get into this industry or maybe is new in their career in this industry.
Yeah, I remind myself this almost daily, but we are not saving lives. At the end of the day, we are not doctors. There are a lot of critical decisions that we make, but we might make a wrong one every time and again. And that's okay because we're not saving lives and no one is going to die and we will learn from our mistakes. And so I think I have actually a post-it above my desk that reminds me of that and to breathe. And I think those two things and just kind of taking it, being able to take it step by step and knowing nothing horrible is at the end of the day going to happen is makes it a little bit less stressful.
Fantastic advice, and thank you so much for the time and all of the information that you've shared. But don't go anywhere because I do have one more section that we like to end with, which we call the lightning round. And on this section, I'm going to just fire some questions at you, and your job is to just pick the answer that comes to mind the fastest. And the hardest part is always me not reacting, but I make no promises that I won't react. Jess, are you ready?
No, but I will pretend to be.
Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, perfect. That's the best. That's how I approach every day. All right, we're gonna get started. True or false? You prefer smaller, intimate events over large scale ones?
Um, False. I like a large scale event. I love to see all the people.
Love it. What is a book everyone should read?
I recently had a daughter, so to keep it light, I will say the book The Gruffalo by Julia Donaldson. It is a very sweet story. It is a children's book, but it is fantastic. Great rhymes, great pictures.
Yes, that's what I need because I've committed to wanting to read every book that someone recommends, and that's one I can handle. So thank you for
It's a
that.
short one. It'll take a few minutes.
Yeah. Which is harder to plan? Multi-day virtual or multi-day in-person event?
Multi-day virtual. Keeping someone engaged online and making sure they're not, getting bored, it's definitely difficult.
Oh, 100%. The best airline is?
United, I am from Chicago.
Wow. Okay. That's a first. That's a first on here. Window seat or aisle seat?
I'm a window seat girl. I like to look out. I
Okay.
like to kind of curl up. It's great.
Photos? You taking photos out the window?
No,
Yeah.
maybe I will. Maybe on my next flight I will.
Yeah. Um, Networking sessions or educational workshops?
Educational workshops. Love a hands-on session. Love to be on my computer geeking out.
You have to close. You have a concert to close your event. Who is your dream musical artist?
I mean, Taylor Swift, obviously.
We got a Swifty. We got a
Oh, of
Swifty.
course.
Um, what is your go-to comfort food during event planning stress?
Um, Pasta. I love pasta. It's fantastic. Had some
What
today,
kind of
actually.
pasta?
Honestly, just like buttered noodles. Sometimes you gotta keep it simple. Got really into it during pregnancy, and I'm still riding the buttered noodle train.
Buttered noodles. Listen, I agree with you though. It hits every time. Your favorite your current favorite mobile app?
Oh. might be Riverside. It's a recording mobile app that I've really been enjoying.
Yeah, fantastic. And true or false, you pack gym clothes when attending an event you're planning.
True, the likelihood I use them is slim.
You know what, Jess? It's okay. At least they were there. You had the intention. I think intention is what matters. Jess, thank you so much for the time. This was a ton of fun. I know you probably have a million things to get back to, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.